we kind of sort of broke into a house. Honestly, to keep it real with you, it kind of had the vibe of being an empty house. I waved hi to the neighbors, hey neighbors, and they kind of gave me like an awkward wave back. This kind of looks a little bit suspicious. Well, I get a call later from the police officer. Yeah, we broke into a house. So don't break into other people's houses as a realtor. It's not really good for business. Hey, welcome to Storytime with Nate. Okay, so for this week's story, I've got a bit of a doozy for you. Once upon a time, me and kind of my go-to project manager, my friend, a client of mine, et cetera, we kind of sort of broke into a house. Yeah, we broke into a house. So what happened was there was an investor from another state that had bought a property in my market, and that's here in Tulsa. And he bought it off the tax sale. So he didn't use me when he bought it. So it was purchased from the tax sale. And because he didn't live in state, he asked me to go check it out and get the locks changed. So I took my project manager with me and we went to the property to go get the locks changed on it. And it honestly, to keep it real with you, it kind of had the vibe of being an empty house. It kind of looked like something that somebody would get from a tax sale. So the bushes were growing, the trees were, well, of course they were growing, but I mean, they were like overly grown. They weren't trimmed, they weren't hedged. The grass was tall. It was from the outside, it was a bit of a fixer upper. And so anyway, my project manager gets us access to the property, brought some power drills. Not that I want to teach kids out there how to break in, but power drills, you go through the doorknobs and you get into a house. I've never done that before, but it worked. And we got in and we're in for a while. We're walking around looking and there's a ton of antique stuff in this house. I mean, like really old coffee cups, old record players and CD players and radios and old like black and white big box type TVs. Might have been color. I don't know. It wasn't plugged in. And there was cats. And when I say cats, there was a lot of cats. There was at least two or three, and they were a little on the slender side. And I actually thought about letting one or two of them go because we kind of wanted them to be free to go find food. Because a lot of times when you buy from the tax sale, it means somebody died. So I'm thinking, okay, somebody's dead. This guy bought this house, and these poor cats are starving. And they'd be like, I'm not trying to get anybody to come after me. It's like cat people, but I was just thinking maybe somebody would pick up this cat, bring him to a neighbor, something, instead of this poor cat like starving to death inside this house. I'm glad I didn't let that cat go for a variety of reasons. So mind you, we're in this house, we're walking around, and there was like some neighbors looking at us. So when I was outside on the front porch, I waved hi to the neighbors, hey neighbors, and they kind of gave me like an awkward wave back. And I kind of had this gut feeling like, yeah, this does kind of look a little crazy. We're using power drills. It is broad daylight on a Saturday afternoon at like 2 o'clock, but still, this kind of looks a little bit suspicious. So I go over across the street. I go talk to the neighbor. I hand him my business card and I introduce myself. I'm on a first name basis. I'm like, I have no secrets here. I'm explaining what we're doing and that we're probably going to manage a project, get this house on the market, flipped for this client. Well, I get a call later from the police officer that got my number from that business card from that neighbor. And the police officer is letting me know, like, we broke into somebody else's house. And I'm like, well, okay, if I did break into somebody's house, like, why would I pass out my business card, right? Like, you don't usually crooks and bandits that break into houses, like, don't pass out business cards. Unless they're the Joker. But I didn't pass out my business card because I was breaking in, obviously. So we have this conversation with the police officer, and then I'm like getting another call, and I'm getting the call from the actual property owner. Now, I was at first a little bit back and forth with him because I've dealt with people in these types of situations, and sometimes people aren't like all the way tuned in on what's really happened. So I'm thinking, okay, the guy's not dead, but he owns something, forgot to pay his property taxes for 3 years, lost the house. That's what I'm thinking. And he's like in denial, because that does happen sometimes where people are just in denial about the reality of like losing their house. Well, this gentleman, he said very convincing things. And so I go back and I check the property address. I look it up. I'll go through tax records, which as a realtor, I have access to tax records. So I'm going through the tax records and I'm asking him his address again. He's repeating it again. And it's like, let's just say it's 1234. I won't say the exact address, but if it was 1234 street, he was saying street. And then I'm looking at what I thought was the address. I pull up the LLC that this investor bought a property with, and his was like 1234 terrace or place. So parallel to each other, but just a block over. So I say, oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm so sorry, sir. And we had put new locks on the property and we had drilled through his old ones. So I'm like, you know what? Let's meet up because I need to give you a key to your new locks. So I meet this guy later. I'm so apologetic. I feel so bad because we broke into his house. Turns out it was kind of a second property for him, and he goes there to like drink beer and hang out and get away from home and has like a man cave of a house that, whatever, that's his business. But I'm handing him the key to his new locks that we basically gave him. And so thankfully I didn't get arrested. Thankfully, you know, it is make my day law in Oklahoma. So thankfully me and my project manager didn't get shot walking into somebody's house. And that's why you're going to hear me over the course of my videos come up with this, not come up with, but use this phrase a lot. It goes like this: trust but verify. So I felt good about this investor that wanted me to go change locks on his houses. He did own other houses throughout the Tulsa market. That was all true. I found out about him and was contacted by him through a trusted reference. So all that was true. But what was not true was that he owned this house. This investor gave me the wrong address by just a simple typo at the end of the address. So boys and girls, sisters and misters, if you're out there, don't break into other people's houses as a realtor. It's not really good for business. Or maybe it is because you get to pass out your business card to the neighbors. So yeah, there you have it. Follow me for more crazy stories like this.